Hi, and welcome to the 75th episode of Keen Minds. We're covering NBC's The Blacklist. This is Season 6, Episode 11, Bastien Moreau. I'm Jen, aka Takata Saiko.
And I'm Tessa. And boy, what an episode.
Yeah, I liked about 99% of it. And so, always love a good heist show, a good heist
Yeah.
episode. Those
Well,
tend to be my
this one had
favorites.
everything. I mean, he had a heist. He had the whole task force minus Cooper working together. He had Cooper going to visit Red, and then he had Cynthia
wild time.
Panabaker.
It had wild time jumps in which they appeared over in Europe and then back in America.
Mm-hmm.
All over the place within 24 hours.
Yeah, and then it had Red in the death chamber and choosing his last meal and doing a walk about of the death chamber. I mean, like what? You're gonna object to the decor? I'm sorry, those curtains are horrible. It cannot be killed here.
I would rely on Red to make a comment like that, though. No,
The fact that he wasn't doing flippant things tells you how. That's what it was so.
Yeah. But I mean, I've never really put a whole lot of thought into it, I would not, but I almost can't imagine that that's not something that they do if they went out of their way to show those scenes. Like, I have to imagine that's something they do, and I just sat there going, this is so twisted. Has no one stopped and said, listen, this is really twisted?
Well, you don't have to do it, but I guess that it's all right to make sure that they're not gonna like you kill you in a bad place
Yeah, because
it's
heaven
not gonna
forbid you
work.
get an infection when they're killing you.
I know, or an allergic reaction.
Yeah, it just I will say, we were talking before we started recording, the death chamber scenes made me incredibly anxious. I didn't not like them because they were badly written or badly acted or anything. It was a personal thing. It just made me incredibly anxious. I was not a fan. Did
Are
not
you a
want
fan of the death penalty?
I'm not against it, but I also wouldn't, sit there and enjoy watching someone croak either. I mean, it's I think it has a place, but I wouldn't revel in it by any stretch. It's still a human life. I mean, just a lot of what went into that made me incredibly uncomfortable to watch. And the one thing I will say, the one scene that I did very much enjoy, and I actually put up a GIF of it today, was that moment when the guy is testing to see if he's allergic to the medication. And Reddington snapped at him. And I'm trying to remember the exact line. He said, I've killed a lot of people. I've shot them, stabbed them, and suffocated them, but I have never coddled them. It's disrespectful. Don't coddle me. And there was something so dangerous, and it just I feel like it's so easy with Red because, I mean, Spader plays him. He's often making light of things. I mean, he has that charm about him. It's so easy to forget how dangerous Red is. And we've seen those moments, but I don't think we've seen that kind of level of switching to danger in a while from him. And it's really easy to forget just how vicious Red can be sometimes. And it was startling. And I saw someone make the comment online that she thought that it was, that there was something there that, maybe the comment was an antidote. I think she was just kind of throwing things out. But whatever, that there was something about that scene. And that's a possibility. I mean, it's the Blacklist and things happen all the time. But to me, it struck me as this suddenly became very real for him, and that was him finally, the mask of being okay cracking just for a second, and him snapping through it and going, stop pretending this is okay. This is my life. Stop pretending this is okay. Whether he deserves
I don't think
it or
it was
not.
even that. It was like just like killing somebody is a very uncivilized act. it's the antithesis of civilization. And I think what irked Red was that when he kills somebody, he is killing somebody. He doesn't pretend to make it civilized, and that pretension of civilization, I think, was the what triggered that reaction. And the reality of it, I think that is, it was such an absurd scene. The fact that they would test it to make sure that you're not an allergic reaction, it's in itself a very complicated thing. And I think that even people who are in pro of the death penalty and people who are against the death penalty, everybody has very complex emotions about it,
I would imagine
as
so.
most people do have about just killing anybody. I think that there may have been a few very heinous offenses that would say to somebody, I basically, you have so renounce your humanity by doing that, like killing children or abusing children or a total mass murder of innocents. That would make.
That's what the judge said when she passed the sentence. She said, you have, what was the line that she gave? She said, you've been denied the right to live at all, or something like that. Mm-hmm. You've given up your right to live as a free man, but now you forfeited the right to live at all. And I mean, I think that was the point that, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what federal offenses land you in the death, in the death penalty, but I mean the number of federal offenses that Red had to his name that I mean we've seen just in the 6 years of the show. Yes, he's committed probably enough things that would land him on death row.
And again, most of the people that he has killed are not exactly innocents.
No, but in the eyes of the law, it would still land him there. And so but yes, it's exactly what you just said. It's super complicated, and I thought it was, I think that is probably what, I think that you were supposed to be uncomfortable in those scenes. I think that it was, it was written in such a way, performed in such a way that I think that my reaction was what they were going for, which, hey, kudos guys, I was still uncomfortable, but I guess kudos. I mean, it's exactly what you said. They're trying to make something that is that's
profoundly uncivilized.
Yeah,
give it a veneer of civilization.
Whether it's necessary or not, don't pretend that you're can do it with a smile.
A happy service.
Yes, exactly. I mean that's
Feel
really
the
what it
card
came across
here
like.
To tell us how we're doing good.
I know.
Happy face or frowny face.
Before you die, please fill out this this survey for us. It's so twisted and so weird, and I mean, I don't see a lot of shows put that up there, and so it was probably a very bold move on the Blacklist. Oh, and by the way, I meant to say this on opening, but congratulations to the Blacklist on season 7, to the writers, the people, production, everybody involved. Kudos for
Just
season 7.
Please give us a few of canon facts. Let's please don't make it into the skeleton. I mean, we've got a few. I don't care even if they mess up my beautifully constructed timeline and I have to start all over again. I'm fine with that. Just give me stuff.
Yeah, we're just asking for a little more depth. We know you got it in you. We know the story's there. Just come on, guys. Like, I would be happy for the show to go on indefinitely if they would, go back to their deeply formatted mythology. And so
I think it is there. It is there. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know that is there. I know that they're doing
more
things.
Spread out these days, and it feels kind of exhausting. It feels like they should be maybe 18 episode seasons versus 22.
Mm-hmm.
But,
yeah, definitely.
I mean, that's what NBC's given them, so that's what they're doing. I'm hoping that maybe because the rumor I've heard is that they actually knew they were doing when Sony pitched the 2-season renewal, the NBC gave it to them as long as they got their 50%, but it was if
they could sign the cast.
Spader was the only one with the 7-year. And so they signed who they could to it. And so, I mean, if that's the case, then I do wonder if maybe there'll be a certain point in which we'll hit, okay, from here until the end, we're going to just dive in deep.
I think that once they know they got X number of episodes, they can then map out the reveals. Because
that's what I'm saying. I hope so.
Yeah. Well, what I've always said is I understand why they're scars. We've hit a point where, I mean, let me put it this way. You know those funny houses where you go and there's all mirrors and you think that something is on your left and then it's all like inclined mirrors and it's turned out that the thing that you're seeing in front of you is really behind you. And so they're laying down this path through this funny house of mirrors, and and you're seeing things, and at the end there will be this one mirror that they will just turn, and it will be such a twist that everything that you thought it was in one place is in some other place. And I think that I'm fully expecting it. And we're getting, I mean, like in this episode, we did get a lot of things, actually.
Yeah, let's have a conversation about Red and Liz over the Last Supper of sorts. Because there were several things. I have very vague notes for this podcast, but two out of the 5 that I have to do with that particular scene. And so, would you like to go first on your thoughts? Or
no, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So there were 2 things that were really interesting to me. The first was Red talking about his mother. Red has always been very, and that's what reminded me and got me started on this path, was you said that, there was a lot in this episode. I feel like that was such an honest moment for him. He's so smooth and so... He always has the right words for everything. He's got a story and He doesn't vacillate. He doesn't have any kind of vacillations. 3 times, this is the 4th time that he has actually stuttered a word. Yeah. And just the way that, stop. I mean, it was a stutter. I've known stutterers over the years, and just the way that they pause like that. Actually, one of the pastors at my church stutters very, quite a bit. And it's almost like they get hung up on a word and it just kind of holds there for a long moment until they can either get past it or they have to go find a different word. And it was such a fascinating moment to see Raymond Reddington do that. And
I think he was overcome with emotion.
I think so, yeah. I mean, between looking death in the eye and Liz coming when he wasn't expecting her to and talking about his mother. But the point of that being that we haven't heard a lot about his mother except for Aram.
He only talks about his mother to people that he really cares about.
And in very emotional situations. In very, very emotional situations, too. I mean...
It's a foundational element.
Mm-hmm. When he thought Liz... when he thought that they were going to lose Liz, and Aram made a call that ended up saving Liz's life, and now, when he's sitting, on death row.
And he orders a food that instead of being one of the things that he'd really like to eat, he ends up ordering something that a horrendous meal that reminds him of his mother. So in a way, he wanted to go back. He wanted the comfort. He wanted the one person that actually saw through the tribulations of the heart.
And you posted just a few moments ago on Tumblr this lovely parallel. Before I go into my other point, would you like to go into that parallel for us? Because it was... I actually hadn't pieced it together, and when you guys hear what it is, you'll understand why I'm embarrassed that I didn't piece this together. But Tessa did, and it was fantastic.
Well, I've had this conviction, because I can't even put it in a theory. It's a conviction based on the words that Red used to describe the major and the kind of people that he recruits, and the parallels that they've been drawing heavily between him and Tom Keene. And so I've always kept in my head what it was that made Tom be a perfect recruit. He was in trouble. He was a troubled teenager. He was in a bad home. He had sociopathic tendencies. The social worker said that he couldn't deal with other people. Basically, he was troubled youth, and that's a kind of person that the major will go for in recruiting: a sociopathic, wayward, difficult children, runaway teens, somebody who's extremely intelligent, certain specific sociopathic tendencies, and a troublesome history. And then when Red said that, I mean, I've been seeing this because he talked about his father always with people that he had a relationship that was somewhat contentious, but he needed them, like the cowboy or Agent Martin or wrestler at the beginning. It's not only until he gets to Liz and it's about the car, and he talks about, that reminds him of the smell of the car that he stole, remind him of the father's car smell, that smell of peanuts and gasoline. And then when he said that about her father being a disciplinarian and excommunicating him, which is a very interesting choice of words, because they've been going through this religious thing for a long time. And now they put, like, the mother understood, and the father basically cast him aside. And as soon as he said that, I had that image of Tom Keene being recruited by the major as a difficult child. And I think that the major, which is 20 years older than Red, so the age difference worked. He would, before the Cold War ended, he would have been a major in the army of some sort, and then he would have trained recruits for intelligence work, and that could be one of the ways that we could go around that Red was in the academy. Admiral Abrams recognizes him, and on the other hand, there is like he said that he hasn't been in a pool. So what was he doing in the academy that he wasn't being? Was he trained in law? Was he trained in intelligence work? And I think that that's what we come in. And also that he took the name Raymond Reddington because he had been excommunicated for his parents. So he created a whole identity for himself, like Tom Keene. It wasn't his real identity, but it protected him. So did I explain that well or not?
Oh, yes. I'm very happy with it. Like I said, she posted it in, with quotes and such was the parallel that she posted there, and it was just phenomenal. I was so excited.
Yeah.
So
we love parallels.
I am a parallel nerd. I do enjoy them. So the other thing that was very odd, and I feel like I have this sneaking suspicion that there's more to it than what we were seeing, because he said it twice. He was so focused on him having this buttload of money for Liz. She was about to become very wealthy. He'd been amassing tons of money for her. It was at least twice, maybe 3 times that he said it. I mean, just really pushing the fact that she was about to become very, very wealthy. And which
reminded me of Kirk.
Well, there's that too. There's that too. But, I mean, he's tried to buy things for her in the past, buy things for Agnes, do things, and she's always shut him down every time. That's never been an interest of hers. That's never been... I mean, I'm not saying that she wouldn't take it if he was dead, but, especially at this point, things may have changed. But regardless, it's never been something that, he would think that she'd be thrilled for that to happen. I mean, she's always very much, while she's been actually against taking his money before, I've never had a question that she would rather have him there, certainly over his money, and so it was when I watched it the first time, it was very strange wording, and I was very confused by it. I'm like, that's bizarre. Kind of put a pin in it. And during my rewatch, I started thinking about it, that I wonder, she went in there to ask for the truth. And I'm thinking about this, and Red being Red, I can imagine if this is something that, as you and I've discussed multiple times, that it's probably something he's embarrassed over, or not embarrassed, that's too calm of a word. That he's ashamed. Thank you. I'm sorry, my brain's just not working. I've been halfway sick all week.
I'm having one of those days.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what they're talking about, Samar, with the losing words, I live there. That's when you have chronic fatigue, you just live there. And so, yay. Anyway. But shame, yes, that he feels shame over, and so if that's the case, and I don't think anybody's gonna, well, no, people would argue with me on it, but Red is a selfish man. He is. He can have very unselfish moments and has many of them, but there is a lot about the way he approaches the world that is very selfish, and I think that he would have trouble in the end if he could. I mean, and we've seen this because he's told Dom before. He said, if I don't make it out of this, you can tell Liz. You can tell Elizabeth. And so it's not that he doesn't want her to know. It's that he doesn't want her to know while he's alive and has to look her in the face and feel the feelings that would come with it. And so I was sitting there and rewatching it and thinking about this, and I'm wondering if there's some sort of fail-safe that he has set up that along with the assets would come. I know in the comics there was a videotape of something that explained, that was in Kaplan's care. And so, I mean, or something along those lines that would come with his assets that would explain everything. Or if Dom would deliver the assets and the information, but that he was making sure that she was aware this was coming so that she wouldn't, miss that somehow. Like go into, do what she did when Tom died and go into hiding and, nobody could find her and tell her the truth. If that's what all of that was. It may be something, it may be that, it may be something entirely different, and he may have just been stressed out and that's what he hyperfixated on. I don't know.
I think that in this, I may be way off base because again, I'm not proceeding from facts and clues. I'm proceeding here from just feelings of things that I am more or less seeing, little clues here, but nothing I can point to. We have had in the recent episodes a number of events that have happened around this time. I mean, we do know, for example, that in the storm in the Sea of Galilee, which is a very interesting painting to have picked up among the many that were lost in 1990 in the Savella Stewart Museum theft. And we know that Red didn't steal it, but he found the man who stole it. So this painting, yes, it's one of the most valuable, but it's not the only one that was valuable. They took that one, and that's the one that Red has been going back and forth. And then we've had this now with the money for a submarine, the way they frame Red was by having $6 million. And $6 million is equivalent of $12 million nowadays. So it's not a negligible amount of money at all. And that money disappeared. Sure, it could be that they just put it in and they it could also be that Katerina needed it. And that was one way that she took money in. And then I realized that disappearing takes money. Being a criminal and being on the run takes money. It's very hard to do. I mean, Kohler, the surgery, that must have taken money. And
we now know that Katerina was the one that brought him to Kohler.
Yes. Yeah. So there is a lot of money here. And I am wondering if with knowing who Red is, because I mean, and here we're going to divert. Those of you who do not believe that Red is Liz's father are going to think that all of this is basically, and you know, whatever. For me, I believe that he's her father. So I think that when understanding who Catalina is, her real identity, which means understanding who Dom is, and also will bring to who Red really is. And I think that that will get Liz into a lot more trouble, because one of the ways that I found it interesting, the way they always said that knowing the father's identity will be trouble. Not who the father is, the father's identity. That's a whole different story. Because when Liz thought that Red was her father, the world didn't stop. Nobody did anything to her. There was no problem. And yet, Red kept insisting is the identity.
That's a really good point.
So the more she gets close to that identity, the more money she's going to need. Because disappearing, because becoming someone else, and running takes money. And I think that is, I mean, and look about all these people that are around him, the Hargraves, they've all have gravitated towards an enormous amount of money.
It's true.
And it's power, sure, but it's also the power to disappear.
But I was going to say, but there's a reason that it's power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, I mean...
And one of the other things that I want to say, since we're just talking about that scene, it was a very, very powerful scene, especially when she said that she loved him. She was there for answers, and Ressler made an excellent point to her at the end. Maybe all you need to know is that it's a man who really deeply loves you. I mean, Ressler was there when Red collapsed when he thought she was dead. There's a lot of things that Liz may not have seen that Ressler did.
And may not know. I mean, Tom really didn't see much of it, and even if he did, I mean, his entire view of Red has been colored for a long time. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's just going to look at things from a different vantage point.
And he was not like that with Tom.
Yeah, that's
with
true.
Tom, it was just supportive.
Yeah, I mean, and to be able to be like that, I feel like, Red's never trusted Tom, even up until the end. I mean, he trusted him to a point, but not to, I feel like he and Ressler have connected at this point, at least Red to Ressler. Maybe not quite as much the other way, but I think that Reddington trusts to be a little more vulnerable around Ressler.
I think it just also have happened. It just have happened. I mean, he was just there. It was, I doubt that, because not even Cooper saw it. I mean, when Cooper went to him and said, how you faring? He said, I'm faring okay, when he's talking about smiling. So I think that Ressler was in a unique point. Mm-hmm. When he hadn't had any chance to rebuild the defenses, to put the walls around him. Because even when he went to Tom, he said, you're going to learn to be a father and all that. It was about him being supported, not about his level of pain. I mean, that moment was a very interesting moment in Liz, and a turning point. She was there for answers. And instead, Red was talking about his mother, his voice cracking, and telling her about his childhood being a difficult child. And I think that Liz is not stupid. She will get that connection to Tom. She will get that eventually. She's not thinking clearly because it's all a rush, but I think she will. It was a beautiful moment when she chose instead to tell her that she loved him.
Yeah, because it was a partial parallel back to when she was, about to fake her death, which, when they looked at it, she could have really died. They knocked everything down. It was a very risky situation when they faked her death. And she didn't finish it. She said, Raymond, I do, and then passed out. And so, I mean, now as the tables are turned and he's looking death in the face, she was able to finish it. And she was, able to tell him, despite everything, in the face of everything, I do love you. And yeah, it was incredibly powerful. It was very well done.
And his face was...
Yeah.
It's like everything he had waited for. That's the redemption. That's the second chance. And he's getting it as he's about to die.
And I think that's why she did it. I think she finally realized that she cares. Finding out her answers it's not going to bring Tom back. It's not going to bring Sam back or Kate or any of them. And in that moment, as she could hold on to her anger and her frustration and all of that and her feelings of being betrayed, she could hold on to all that and probably regret it after he was gone, or she could give him that in the end. And even after everything, say, let's push all the other feelings aside. This is how I do really feel at my core, and here we go. And it was incredibly brave of her, and very, very selfless of her after everything. I mean, I'm sure, because heaven knows the Liz hate has been off the charts, so I'm sure people are screaming at her for flip-flopping, but I think it was brave.
It's a very complex relationship, and Red has been withholding so many things. So it's not like he's blameless. It was also a very interesting moment because he goes right back to season 1, to episode 1, who says, "You're the only you can give me a second chance." And it comes at this bittersweet moment when he thinks he's gonna die, and he is stunned by it. Like, he had no words.
Yep.
I also think that if we're going to look, and I've been looking at things that maybe Red says, and maybe, there's another Jen in Reddit. She's 5225, and she made an observation on Reddit about something interesting with a scene, and it just slipped my mind. I'm having that kind of day too. What is it? Okay, we have been realizing that Red seems to be off by a year. Almost like he was in a coma, and everything for him is like Katerina didn't commit suicide or walk into the ocean in 1990. She did in 1991. It was, and everything seems to be off by a year. So I wonder if So I've been thinking, is he lying to Liz, or is it really off that he really doesn't know everything? He cultivates that image that he knows everything, but I don't think he does.
Well, we've talked about that quite a bit, that it's he projects that omniscient sort of vibe, and it's so easy, even as the audience that knows as much as we do, to get caught up in that. And I mean, if we're getting caught up in it as the audience that has a much rounder viewpoint than someone in the show would, then they're very susceptible to it.
So I wonder if when, even if you think that Red does lie to Liz, I think that at that point, you have to think that he's being honest. Those words that he said about his childhood and his mother, they were deeply important. They were deeply honest. That's probably his honest.
I don't think he had any reason to lie about that or to lie at all in that moment. I mean, what does he have to lose? I don't know for sure if he would have told her the truth if she had asked, but I mean...
Yeah, and that brings me to my last thing. In in all these things that we're seeing in this season, I gotta say, frustrated as I get, I have to admit to the level of craftiness in creating this, that you turn people so many times around that they don't know up from down and left from right. If you think about it, Red knows that Liz knows that he has been someone else once. Correct?
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Hang on, let me follow.
Yes. And Red yet does not, even knowing that, he still thinks that Liz thinks she's his daughter. So whatever
she keeps
people
saying it. She does keep saying it to him. She said it on the stand. I mean, even if the folks in the even if the jury didn't understand she was referring to herself when she said the love of a father for a daughter, you know, I mean, they may not have known, because I don't think it's supposed to be very widespread that she is. But I mean, she said things like that around him even since he found out, and part of that could be just him allowing her to think that she's still playing him.
Okay, but think about it. That absolutely means that what the audience think it means is not what it means. And I know this is complicated, but follow me. If Red were the person who assumed the identity of Reddington in 1991, as he make us believe, the moment that Liz knew that he was someone else, Liz would have known that he's not Reddington. So if Liz thinks that he's not Reddington, how on earth can he believe that she thinks that he's her father? That would have been the first thing that it would be like, whoa, wait a minute, what do you mean? The fact that he's not going over that, what he wants to prevent Liz from doing is finding out his real identity. Not that he's not ready to assume the identity in 1991. That doesn't make any sense. It's very well hidden because you've been turned so many times around. But it makes no sense whatsoever.
Maybe. I mean, like I said, my assumption was that he's just allowing her to continue to think that she's playing him. Because otherwise, if he were to say, hey, I know that you think you're playing me, then the next question immediately comes about, okay, so who are you? And then, crap, now I've either got to deny it or answer it. You know, I mean, so why open up that can of worms sort of thing? You know, if they can just continue both play pretending, why not?
But why at the end? Because in any circumstances, I would say yes.
That goes back to what I said earlier. I don't think he wants... I think he's so ashamed of whatever it is, you know, that shame is so deep that he doesn't want to look her in the eye and have that conversation. And so he would rather, after he's gone, her get her answer. And that was one of the questions I had, that she said, you know, what happens if he dies, then my answers die with him? I'm sitting there going, no. It's like, you put him in jail to have a chance to find your answers. You actually would probably have a better chance of finding them if he's gone. I mean, I'm not saying, like, kill Red, but she would still probably... I mean, like, that doesn't immediately kill her ability to find answers. Unlike with Tom, which that was such a... She was so far removed from something like St. Regis, she wouldn't have even known what she was looking for the most part with Tom, you know. I mean, when she saved his life at the end of season 1 to, you know, drag him in for answers. I don't think she would have ever found out nearly as much about Tom, or about Jacob Phelps as she did. She wouldn't have known where to look for him. She knows where to look for Red. She's already on the Bloodhound on that trail. And so him dying, I do not believe would kill her ability to find that.
Good point.
And so, I mean, she's just in she doesn't want to lose him. I mean, that's what it boils down to. She doesn't want to lose him. She cares about him. She loves him. And it's, and she probably feels probably about it. She does feel very guilty over it because I don't think she ever meant for it to go this far. She wanted to put him in a corner somewhere, let the cops keep him for a little while, and then I think she thought his immunity deal would come busting through and he would quietly be released out onto the streets like every other time that he's been caught up in something. Why would this be any different? It's the way she went about it. She just didn't think it through.
So, on to Cooper.
Yeah, let's move on to Cooper because Cooper had some amazing moments here. I was not... I don't know. I mean, we've seen that Diaz is a little sketchy before.
He was in the pockets of Kirk. I mean,
I said little sketchy, but a lot sketchy. I mean, so like that's. I think he's Cabal. I think that Diaz is Cabal.
He's the upper faction of the Cabal.
I think so.
The one in Bonn.
I wouldn't. I don't think he is the upper faction. She may be part of it.
She's the new Hitchens.
I think she actually may be above him. I think he's more of a pawn. He's more of a what was his name?
No, but
Connolly.
of that faction. Of
the
upper echelon of the Cabal.
Yeah, no, I don't think he's the
she's
head by any stretch. Oh yeah, I think she's the handler. He's the one that they've put into place and orchestrated to put him in a place of power. He's a puppet. Kind of like Connolly was. I mean, obviously Connolly was newer into it than Diaz seems to be. But I think it was... I think that Cooper's idea... I loved that moment, Panabaker, that's career suicide. Yeah, for the president. That was brilliant. It just... The fact that he's willing to go so far and push so hard to save Red. I mean, he's been doing it for a while now. It's really... Like, I've really enjoyed this stretch with Coop, and the fact that he just keeps going, nope, you gotta get me another meeting with the president, and another one. Did I mention I'm gonna talk to the president again today?
Yeah, and that scene at the beginning was very beautiful too, when Cooper and Ren meet.
Calls him friend. Well, I think there was something very special in the moment when Cooper was trying to help his dead friend's son. Was that season 4 or 5? Somewhere in there. And Reddington went out of his way to be his backup. He knew
even when he said, "I don't need it." There
exactly.
He was.
And, I mean, it was a nice little parallel to the Task Force in this episode. I would not ask for this, and I won't ask them for this, and there they are waiting on the plane. It was just, I think that no matter how irritable Cooper gets with Red, and I think he does get very frustrated with Red when it comes to Liz. But I think outside of Liz, he has a great deal of respect for Red. Yeah. And a great deal of affection for him.
Yeah. It was great to see Panabaker.
I don't know if I love that woman or hate her, because I don't trust her, because nobody in her... Well, no, that's not true. Oh, what was her name? She started in season 2, and she died in season 3.
Revan Wright?
Thank you, Revan. I'm like, I can picture her. Yeah, Revan has been the only person, I think, in that position that wasn't just a total creep. I mean, because we had Connolly, and then Revan, and then Hitchin, and then now we've got Panabaker, and we've had Panabaker for a while. And I've never quite decided if I trust her or not. I'm still not sure. I've switched back and forth several times in this episode on if I think she's on side with Diaz and what was the woman's name?
Anna.
Is that all we got? We didn't get a last name?
No,
he gave a last name. I don't remember what it was though. But so or if she's just doing her job. I lean more towards doing her job because I think that otherwise
She's a politician. She's a survivor.
Yeah. But I lean more towards just doing her job because otherwise I don't think she ever would have gotten him those meetings with the president to begin with if she were in on it. I don't think she would have orchestrated that. It would have been a whole lot easier just to keep Cooper out.
Yeah. Did you find interesting that for that woman, Anna, they chose a woman that could be like a younger version of Katerina, sounded like Katerina,
did see that.
Hair like Katerina, that coldness that Katerina
She's not ginger.
had.
Hang on, she's not ginger.
No, but she's a strawberry blonde. Not quite a redhead, but not quite a blonde.
Yeah. But no, I definitely saw the resemblance there, and there was something in the eyes, in the shots that they were taking of her that were very similar to Requiem, and just that coldness, that calculated look that she got. It reminded me a great deal of Katerina. I did notice that, and I think she will be very formidable. I hope that she lasts a while. I think that she'll outlast Diaz. I think Diaz will be dead long before she will be.
Oh, Diaz will turn. He's turnable.
You think Diaz will turn?
Yeah, he'll turn. He'll turn on whatever. He's done it before, and he will do it again.
That's true. I mean, Red knows how to make him dance if he needs him to.
So Anna would be but I think that we're looking now at the other levels of the cabal.
I think so.
And it's interesting that they choose a woman that resembles of a younger Katerina. Very, very interesting choice. And the fact that they're bringing Katerina and so you're having like redheads galore now and women with hair like her, and there's all over. It's very, very intriguing to me.
Shows always need more redheads in them.
Then how about this little story with Samar and Aram?
Well, let's can we go into the task force first? Because I mean that was fun, and then kind of segue into Samar.
Oh, okay.
So I loved the heist. I'm a big fan. Every time they do a heist, I'm always a big fan of it. And to have, like I mentioned earlier, I very much enjoyed that. I know that they would back me, but I'm not going to ask them to because of that. And then she shows up and they're just there waiting on her. And it was just such a great scene. It was great to see them all together and working together on it. And them saying, and she said, well, Dembe and I are his family, and them looking at her saying, but we're yours. And that was such a great moment of just this unanimity between them. And I very much enjoyed it. And and then the wonderful bit of Rom dropping the fob into the toilet.
Perfect.
It was so funny. I mean, that whole scene, because you had Liz playing the tourist, you had Wrestler over there with his hamburger. He's in Luxembourg and he's got a hamburger. And just the whole bit. I mean, it was, for as emotional as the back end of the episode was, it needed that lightness in there.
Yeah, that was a great moment, and it's interesting because it was a very pointed change into one thing that I did see in Red in season 5 was that he got so much about the chase of the bones that scene was, to me, was when he's about to leave and Samar is missing. And I thought it was interesting how they went back to that scene in the plane, and now this time everybody is trying to save Red. It's about Liz, but I think it's also about Red. And I think that it was a moment where they showed them loyalty.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's first and foremost for Liz, but yeah, especially for people like Aram who have a bit of a special relationship with Red. I think that, it's very much about doing everything they can. I mean, that's what Samar said. She said, we're going to do everything we can. He may live, he may die, but at least they can say they gave it their all for it. And it was a very sweet scene and a very fun scene.
Yeah, and boy, that episode did need something fun.
Oh gosh. Oh no, if it had all been just a tearjerker, I think I would just still be curled up and crying. It would have been terrible. So I didn't look up who the writer was for this episode. Wait a minute, did the
This
Johns?
is JB's. This is the
the
Johns.
Camps? Okay, both the Johns did this one?
Yeah,
Okay.
the Johns.
Then kudos, guys. Kudos, dudes. This was very well balanced on that.
Yeah, and then we have the whole thing with Samar. I think that they're preparing, either Samar is going to leave the task force and then they're going to send that umbrella company after her that kills former agents. Because I think that once, it doesn't matter if she leaves leave Mossad or something else. It's the fact company. That there is one coming episode of it's called the Umbrella something company.
Uh-huh.
And they're a company that kills former agents for organizations, for the CIA. So they issue a burn order, they kill them.
Oh,
so that's the episode when we get Levi back.
Interesting.
So I don't know who's being in danger, or if it's Samar that decides to leave the task force, or that she will be killed. I don't know how, but I don't think that she's going to make it the last end of the season.
Well, no, the rumor is that she's gonna leave. I don't know what all that entails. I mean, I've heard pieces and but nothing confirmed. But yeah, the whole bit between Aram and Samar was how did you take it from a non-shipper point of view? What was your
about
Samar and Aram, just that whole back and forth and him finding out and all of that?
I think that he was deeply concerned that she was jeopardizing them and herself by being in the field. And I think that, however utterly lost he was about finding this, Aram is first and foremost about what's right in his mind, and in his mind is that she shouldn't be in the field. It's a danger to her and it's a danger to the rest. And he was trying to protect the task force
and her.
And it's funny that how they say the people who will always tell you the truth, and the person they chose for that particular one was Aram.
Actually, no, they chose Samar for that.
Samar. But I mean, Aram is very. I mean, he said you cannot be in the field. I mean, this mistakes are important, and I think it's a very bittersweet thing for Aram as a non-shipper, because he saved her, and in a way he got back to him, but it wasn't the same.
Yeah. And I mean, it was so funny. I was watching it and I went, oh, here we go again, Aram, with your terrible timing. What he was saying, how he was saying, and the timing of what he was saying. All of it just ended up this big mess. And I'm glad she hung up on him, because otherwise it would have been a very bad situation. But I mean, he sits there and has this conversation about, I guess he went through her trash and found the discarded notes there of the discarded reports. And I mean, just the timing of saying that. I mean, it's not like she was, he knows her too well. He knew she wasn't going to just go, you're right, honey. Let me just tell Wrestler that I'm having this aphasia that I didn't want to talk about at the office, and that I'm going to just bail on them right now and get out of the field in the middle of the op. I mean, she's not going to do that.
But that's Aram.
I know, but that's what I mean. That's what I mean. It goes back to Aram's terrible timing. He always has terrible timing, and he just gets so laser focused on it. just the kind of things he was saying and when he was saying it, you're just sitting there going, honey, no, stop. Rob, stop.
I mean, it was very sad, and it was very well chosen, because as Red is contemplating the end of his life, then Samara is contemplating the decline that she knows is inevitably coming. And it's like it's preventing her from doing what she said she wanted. She said she didn't want children. She wanted a career. And at the end, what is all this? What does she have now? And, would she just, what would be the choices that she will make, or how she will leave, or all that? I think it's going to be very interesting, and I'm looking forward. I mean, it's sad, but the moment that Aram was the only one who wasn't damaged, I knew that something bad was coming. I knew they weren't going to do happy. They don't do happy.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I hope that, because, I mean, like I said, the rumor is that Mozan's going to leave. I do hope that they will keep it open, and that maybe at the end they'll be able to reunite them. And so that would, I was telling a friend.
She might just leave and have a child and something like that.
Random, but okay. I think that would be a little random. It would seem a little out of nowhere if she just was suddenly pregnant.
No. If she just leaves the task force, not necessarily die.
Oh yeah. I mean, I would hope they wouldn't kill her at this point. I mean,
I do think because of that episode, unless the target is Levi's.
I think there's a good chance the target will be Levi.
But it's only former agents. What former is Levi?
Well, he may have left Mossad. I mean, we don't know what Levi's done the last season and a half.
That's true.
No clue.
That's true.
And so, I mean, that would be a good way to bring him in, unless he's one of these agents. I mean...
Or the one telling Samara, I found that there is a hit on you.
Yeah. I mean, my guess is that Levi is the one with the hit on him.
Well, so see, can they do at least medianly happy, or it's only unhappy?
You know what? I just want a fulfilling ending at this point. I mean, I don't think, for me, with Liz, the way that it's panning out, I don't think that we'll ever get a truly fulfilling ending for her, but just give the woman a break. That's all I'm asking. Like, in the end, give her a break. You can do that at the end of a show. When it's done, when it's over, you can give them something. If suddenly Tom's been held captive somewhere in the last episode, let's borrow Ryan for a second. I'm good with that. That's, if anybody's taking requests in the writer's room.
And finally, Wrestler had it was very interesting that Wrestler has been the voice of reason for Liz.
He was okay, real fast. With Samar and Aram and Wrestler. Would you two like to... What was the line? Would you like to get a room, or would you like to rob a bank? And then I'm just gonna get you a room. I'll be the one to rent you the room, or something like that.
It's funny because for most shippers, like, oh, he ships them. I'm like, I think he's baller with them. And he's like, can we please get on to the things that we're doing over here?
Oh, I mean, I made the comment on Tumblr. I said in which Wrestler ships Saram. But that goes back to... I've had a long-running joke since, like, season 2, I guess it is. It started out with Samar, when they were talking about Tom, and that Tom was alive, and that Liz had kept him on a boat.
Romantic.
Yeah, and I remember making a post that in which Samar ships Keen Squared. And then the next season, you had Aram talking to... No. You had Tom talking to Aram about Samar, and I said in which Tom Keen ships Saram. Turn around, Aram's talking about something sweet Tom did for Liz, in which Aram ships Keen Squared. And so it's just been a running gag for me personally through my Tumblr and Blacklist experience, so I just had to add to it, in which Wrestler ships Saram.
Yeah,
Wrestler was never gonna ship Keen Squared, so I'll take 1 out of 2. I'll be okay.
So, the plot is complicated. of this entire thing, because I was sure that the plot was to kill the president, but apparently the president is on the plot. So, and there is this dossier compiled by a former British intelligence that was given to the German prime minister, and then she got killed.
Intelligence.
And
She's head of intelligence.
oh, okay, intelligence minister, I guess,
Something
and
like that.
she got killed. And the report is nobody can find it, but she did tell that senator some of it.
I don't think she told him a lot because she started
No, but
coughing up bugs. And I go
yeah.
back to, wasn't it supposed to be subtle? That's not subtle.
Well, but it's basically not subtle, but nobody would know what to make of it.
Yeah, but you're not going to think, oh, the President of the United States did this. I know he did.
No, you're not
It's
going to
not the
think that.
go-to.
No, no, no. The box were so he gave it that thing way before,
Yeah.
because they take about a week to hatch.
Yep.
So what do you think is the next step? Because there's one more step to do. Somebody else have to die.
Well, I think they'll get a stay of execution. Because Cooper's going to walk in there and put his cards on the table. With what he told Panabaker. And I think Diaz will cave.
Mm-hmm.
I think Diaz caves very easily. That's why I said I think he's more of a puppet than a ringleader here.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't know. I haven't been nearly as much for the theories. It's such a wild. I mean, they're going after the dossier because Moreau has the intelligence officer. But honestly, I mean, I've always wondered with that, I'm going to take you at gunpoint to find this thing that you don't want me to find. Dude, you're going to shoot him at the end. Why would he go with you? Like, I guess
Buying time, I guess people
I guess so, but like
just hoping something will happen and he will be derailed.
Yeah.
But obviously there is who do you think is the other victim?
Well,
The other
I mean,
person who's going to die.
they had
They both got to die.
They had it was the intelligence officer, the MI6 guy, or MI5, MI6. Yeah, it was
but he's not the guy who they had a gunpoint.
Yes, it was.
No. That is I don't think that is is a former guy. I think it's an older person who had that dossier.
No, because
that was a part of the
someone else
German.
may have the dossier. No, that was the British guy, because they had his photo with the German woman, and they had the young man who came in and said, "This, I have this dossier, and you're going to talk to the Americans. You're not going to give them the dossier." That was the British intelligence officer.
Was it?
Yes, it was, and that's also who he took at gunpoint to go find the dossier. So
Okay.
I think he's the one that they're in a race to save at this point. I mean, but he wasn't nearly as high profile as it needed to be to save Red's life. The German intel. Now, as soon as they realized that Diaz and Anna were involved in it, then it suddenly, and that's what Red told Liz. He said, "This is over. This is over. Look at the bigger picture now. Look at the
Yeah, I think that we're getting now close to Red's work. What Denver referred to as the work that they're doing, the things that give meaning to his life. That's what he's been doing, and it has to be a reason why Katerina can come out, and that has to be something that is working. And she was a secret keeper.
Yeah, that has been buried deeply.
Yeah.
And we heard that once and didn't hear it again. And
we know that what happens to things that happen like that, right?
Yep, they mean something. They either mean nothing, like Tom can't swim that never came back around, or they mean quite a bit. And I have a feeling with Katerina it means quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. I think the whole thing is Katerina. I mean, it's like we're circling to Katerina. And everybody, like, I noticed, like, that when they chose that actress to be, it's like, wow, that is pretty neat. The fact that they chose a woman that would remind you of, and also the way she was acting, that cold.
Oh, yeah. It was like she watched the scenes with Lottie and just was trying to imitate her. It was fantastic.
Mm.
The actress was great.
Yeah, very creepy.
Yes.
Creepier than Lotte did Katarina.
Oh yeah, I agree. She'd make a great Inez. Inez McKenna.
Yeah. Very, very. I'm really looking forward because I think that we're going to the first tier of the Cabal, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, I would love to have the Cabal come back around. All right. Well, is that about it?
That is about it because I mean we're gonna have a lot more to say probably when it concludes.
But all right. Well, you can listen to us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube, and you can talk to us on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Tumblr. Until next week.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.